My fellow Americans.
Take the red pill.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
The disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
All we have built, all we have worked for, would be destroyed.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
And this nation will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action.
These criminals cannot be rewarded.
So that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction.
There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
The cost of freedom is always high.
Those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
This is a crusade! This is a holy war against the deep state!
We never wanted to be right, but yet things are all adding up to the firestorm.
America is a land of heroes, a place where greatness is born, where destinies are forged, and where legends come to life. This is the home of Thomas Edison and Teddy Roosevelt, of many great generals, including Washington, Pershing, Patton, and MacArthur. This is the home of Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Amelia Earhart, Harriet Tubman, the Wright brothers, Neil Armstrong, and so many more. This is the country where children learn names like Wyatt Earp, Davy Crockett, and Annie Oakley. This is the place where the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth and where Texas patriots made their last stand at the Alamo. The American nation was carved out of the vast frontier by the toughest, strongest, fiercest, and most determined men and women ever to walk on the face of the earth. Our ancestors braved the unknown, tamed the wilderness, settled the Wild West, lifted millions from poverty, disease, and hunger, vanquished tyranny and fascism, ushered the world to new heights of science and medicine, laid down the railroads, dug out the canals, raised up the skyscrapers. Our ancestors built the most exceptional republic ever to exist in all of human history, and we are making it greater than ever before. This is our glorious and magnificent inheritance. We are Americans. We are pioneers. We are the pathfinders. We settled the new world. We built the modern world, and we change history forever by embracing the eternal truth that everyone is made equal by the hand of Almighty God. America is the place where anything can happen. America is the place where anyone can rise. And here, on this land, on this soil, on this continent, the most incredible dreams come true. This nation is our canvas, and this country is our masterpiece. We look at tomorrow and see unlimited frontiers just waiting to be explored. Our brightest discoveries are not yet known. Our most thrilling stories are not yet told. Our grandest journeys are not yet made. The American age, the American epic, the American adventure has only just begun. Our spirit is still young. The sun is still rising. God's grace is still shining. And my fellow Americans, the best is yet to come.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Running a few minutes late tonight, but I apologize for that. But here we are. We are rocking and rolling, and are we ready to get into it? Holy shit. Season 2024 of Earth is absolutely nuts. You couldn't even make this shit up in a bad movie, right? I mean, it's getting pretty unhinged right now, and my recommendation is buckle up. It's gonna get a lot crazier. And see, that's the thing, is nobody in this audience is surprised. We're not surprised. We expected all of this to happen because this is what we've been talking about for a very long time. Someone said low mic, so what I'm gonna do is I want to validate that my audio is going through the right input. Can you guys hear me? How is my audio? Is that good? I see. I don't recall saying low mic. My mic is literally right in front of my face. 5.5. All right. So get her done there. If you get a low mic, try to. Everybody's saying it's gold. So we are golden. All right. So let's recap. Let's kind of take a look at what's been happening in the last 12 hours, because I think that that's important to understand everything that has been going on. And let me pull up my postings here. Go like that. All right. Actually, I know exactly where it is. Season 2024. If you're not following me on X and you are back on X, dude, go and follow me on X at Real Joshua Reed. Reed is spelled R-E-I-D. Go check that out. I been posting a lot of good shit lately. So 12-hour news recap. Let's go over this, because I think that this is critically important to kind of grasp our mind upon the hidden war that is unraveling right in front of us. Number one, multiple blasts go off in different parts of Lebanon, killing at least 20 people and injuring more than 450. A day after simultaneous explosions of pagers used by Hezbollah members killed 12 and wounded thousands. The FBI and other federal agencies announced that Iranian hackers provided the links to Biden's campaign, provided people linked to Biden's campaign with stolen data from the Trump campaign as part of an ongoing effort to interfere with the 2024 election. We'll talk about that. Russia shoots down 54 Ukrainian drones overnight, and half intercepted in the Kursk region, making another escalation in the drone warfare between the two countries. The Federal Reserve slashes interest rates about 50 basis points in the first cut since 2020, paving the way for lower borrowing costs on mortgages and credit cards. The Teamsters Union declines to endorse a presidential candidate after internal polling showed Trump leading Kamala, marking the first time in nearly 30 years the union has withheld its endorsement. Spain's Senate officially recognizes Edmund Gonzalez as the elected and legitimate president of Venezuela, aligning with the country's Congress and dealing a blow to Maduro's international standing. Nassau police responded to a suspicious occurrence near Trump's Long Island rally site, but no explosives were found. Taiwan's Gold Apollo clarifies that the pagers made allegedly used by Hezbollah in deadly explosion was produced by its Hungarian partner, BAC Consulting KFT, distancing itself from direct involvement. We'll talk about that in a second. The Dow jumps 300 points after the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates by 50 basis points, with the S&P and the NASDAQ also gaining. Trump makes his first Bitcoin purchase, buying burgers at a New York City cryptocurrency-themed bar before handing them out during the campaign stop. Melania Trump defends her nude modeling work in a memoir promotional video, comparing the photos to works by master artists and questioning media scrutiny of her artistic expression. I love the way she twisted that. And a global trail reveals Taiwan's Gold Apollo branded pagers were used in deadly Lebanon blasts, with the company, its Hungarian partner, and the Hungarian government denying involvement, while Hezbollah blames Israel and vows a severe reckoning. That's just the last 12 hours. They missed P. Diddy. P. Diddy. We'll talk about P. Diddy. We'll talk about what's really going on in this world and how it's all coming down. So the Trump rally in New York State or New York City right now. Local news has been reporting that the Trump rally in New York has an overflow crowd of over 50,000 people. Tens of thousands of people are already inside the venue. 50,000 are outside the venue and more are still arriving. They had a 60,000 people requested tickets. This is mind-boggling. Trump claims that they are going to win New York. I agree with him. I think that there's a good possibility they're going to win New York. Now, we talked about the Teamsters, right? So the first time in 30 years, the Teamster Union will not be endorsing a presidential candidate. The reasoning behind this is they said that through their polling methodologies, no one candidate received the majority, and so they will not be endorsing any candidate. Although their internal polls showed Trump a 58% to 31% favorite over Kamala. That was with internal polls and with phone polls, which means Trump had the majority, but they just chose not to endorse him. And the reason they chose not to endorse him is because of all that money that flows in from the DNC and the various other PACs to the Teamsters Union to keep them on the payroll. But they also didn't want to piss off their people. Hedge fund billionaire John Paulson plans to pull money out of Wall Street if Kamala wins the election. The hedge fund manager John Paulson announced that he would withdraw his investments from the market and move into cash and gold if Kamala wins the presidential election. Paulson, whose hedge fund manages an estimated $9 billion across various sectors, voiced concerns about Kamala Harris's proposed economic policies. More strictly speaking, taxing unrealized capital gains of billionaires, as well as 55 to 58% wealth tax, which are just socialists in their nature. And we have actually Warren Buffett. If everybody remembers, Warren Buffett cashed out the majority of his Apple stock, which was one of his prized holdings and possessions. And he said the reason he did it is because he was in disagreement with the policies that the Biden-Harris administration or the Harris-Walz administration potentially could put into effect with capital gains and non-realized capital gains. And they wanted to get out of those investments now. Now, Gavin Newsom in California, and we'll talk about the 50 well, let's just talk about the 50 basis points now before we move on. So the Federal Reserve came out today and lowered the Fed rate by 50 basis points. What does that mean? It means interest rates will come down. The interbank interest rate will come down. So the ability to borrow money becomes a lot easier. What does that do on the other side? Well, it begins flooding money back into the markets. Yeah, that's right. It's not as lucrative to keep money in money market accounts and buy bonds because the interest rates are dropping. It's going the opposite way. But people have easier access to money. This is a short-time fix done by the Democrats, and this is why they did it in mid-September. It's a short-time fix by the Democrats to make the economy look like it's booming when it's really not. It'll stimulate the economy for just a few weeks until we start to see repercussions from this decision. As I talked about the other day, when you have increasing inflation, you have to increase the interest rate to match that inflationary amount or exceed that inflationary amount. If you don't, inflation will just continue to grow. If you decide to reduce the interest rate during the time of a hyperinflationary period, what will happen is you are going to increase that rate of inflation over a long period of time, as in the velocity of which that inflationary rate will speed up will increase. And this is exactly what they've done, but they don't care because they're planning on taking the election. And we'll talk about what they're going to do, how they're going to steal the election. They can't vote their way out of this one. We'll talk about that. So in California, well, last word on that. Fed rate cut, temporary. Wall Street, Silicon Valley, they are on the side of Donald Trump. We're seeing this more so than ever, the majority. And that brings about massive repercussions for the aspects of the deep state that are still in charge. Whiskey. It's been one of those days, people. What's in the cup is what they asked. So, the economy. Where people are like, well, why haven't we seen a black swan event? Why haven't we seen the economy crash? Because it's a weapon in their arsenal. They're not going to utilize it right now when they don't need to utilize it. If they don't see any end in sight to stopping Donald Trump, it will be used. Don't worry. Everything is still set up, but they can manipulate the market as much as they want. Now let's go to California. Governor Newsom just signed a bill to make it illegal in the state of California, where you can no longer knowingly distribute an ad or election communication that contains materially deceptive content, including deep fakes. Okay. It would be a completely different story if they proposed a bill stating that you can't produce election communications that contains materially deceptive content, including deep fakes. Okay, I can understand that. But you can't distribute, which means that every social media platform now becomes liable for their people, specifically Elon Musk, in the sense of putting out what they consider to be truth or opinion. So I found this interesting because all of Kamala Harris's ads that she's claiming that Donald Trump is associated with Project 2025 should now be banned in California. I hope the Trump campaign literally takes action and utilizes that law to the full extent of the law by bringing up lawsuits against the Kamala Harris campaign for libel, slander, defamation, for basically propagating deceptive communications on election that undermines the American people. Because that's what needs to happen in this. Now, it's funny because this was against Elon Musk for putting out a modified Kamala Harris ad video. Now, if you remember back in 2016, a MAGA supporter was arrested, tried, and convicted of spreading a meme, basically telling people to vote by texting. And he wasn't even the originator of the meme, but he still went to jail for it. This is the dangerous type of events that occur in a country like ours that lead us down that road of communism, that lead us down that road of totalitarianism. That is an egregious violation of the First Amendment, and I would love to see this law upheld within the California Supreme Court and the Supreme Court of the United States of America, because it would not hold up. That would be an unanimous decision by the Supreme Court, shooting down this law by the state of California. And I think that they signed it in law knowing that that would be the case. Now, disinformation, misinformation, malinformation. It's something that we hear about a lot lately, more so from our government proclaiming that other governments are doing that. Russia has intensified its disinformation campaign against Kamala. Wait, what? Vladimir Putin just endorsed Kamala. Vladimir Putin doesn't want Donald Trump to be president. Microsoft, there we go. Microsoft has revealed that Russian operatives are escalating disinformation efforts aimed at discrediting Kamala's 2024 presidential campaign. Kremlin-aligned groups have produced fake videos, including false videos of violence by Kamala supporters, and fabricated a hit-and-run case, which has gained millions of views. Putin endorsed her. It's not Russia producing this content. It's probably people like you and me. But see, with what happened to a lot of people at the Daily Wire, Tim Pool, and everybody else, is they want to be able to point the finger and blame people because they have honeypotting operations. They have these various different operations that are going on where there's deep state intelligence actors posing as Russian propagandists, paying people behind the scenes without their knowledge, influencing this election because they're going to utilize that on January 6th. You remember what I said? Remember what I fucking said about a year, 2 years ago? I said they will come after Donald Trump on January 6th, and what they will do is they will scream that Donald Trump colluded with Russia all over again. And what are we seeing? We're seeing the precedent for that being set right now. But how will they do it? Oh, Donald Trump's largest influencers on X and Rumble and so forth are the ones that were colluding with Russia. This is the type of rhetoric that they're going to bring forth, guys. You got to remember that no holds barred time. It is open season and do or die for these people. Now, I saw this video and I really couldn't wrap my head around how woke various senior ranks of the military had become. But I want you to listen to this former general of the United States Armed Forces and listen to what this man has to say. This is embarrassing, this is shocking, and quite unbelievable.
But Kamala Harris would be just the opposite. Why? Because she's an inspiration. Not only is she positive, and does she bring hope and optimism, but as a black woman, the product of a mixed marriage, she will inspire millions of people throughout the world. Our credibility as a nation, that we would be able to allow, our country is so great that we're allowed a woman like that to become the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. That is going to send a powerful message all over the world. People like Vladimir Putin are going to say, hey, wait a minute. These guys, they truly have a democratic country. They truly are representative. They truly are fighting for all their people. And Kamala Harris is a manifestation of that.
Vladimir Putin's going to be shitting his pants because Kamala Harris is not white and not a man. Get the fuck out of here. That's a former 4-star general in the United States military. I'm blown away by this cuck, because that's what you call him. He's a cuck. You know what he's doing is he's sucking that cock of Kamala to try to get into her administration. That's what he's doing. And he sounded like a fucking buffoon, because he is. That woke ideology that believes that a person's race and gender determine the influence and the power that they're going to have on a nation as a leader is completely absurd. See, you notice how when he was describing Kamala, at no point in there did he talk about any attribute of leadership. We need a strong leader in this country. We need a person that is going to rise up. They are going to unify the people of this country, the various different races and creeds, and rid it of the poison that has been intoxicating our children in our schools and our communities. And they're going to bring this country back together. And they're going to produce policies, they're going to produce executive orders, and they're going to produce action that is going to do that. And Donald Trump is the one person, and I don't care if you love Donald Trump, hate Donald Trump, it doesn't matter. Donald Trump is that one person right now that has the ability to do that, because we saw it in 2016. We saw it in 2017. But see, people like that can go on CNN and they can talk absolute garbage, nonsense. And people eat it up like, oh my God, like this is a general saying this, and we're going to be respected around the world because he said that she's inspirational. Mr. Vlad Putin is going to love Kamala, and he's going to be scared to attack America because we got a woman in the White House. That's the mainstream media. And see, there's a problem with the mainstream media. Their power and influence have subsided to the point where psychological warfare operations being utilized by the Mockingbird media no longer have that massive overreaching effect that they did just a decade ago. People no longer trust various news agencies. People are not even tuning in to many of these news agencies. The biggest contracts that they have in the sense of distribution are airports. The biggest advertisers that they have on these mainstream media channels are pharmaceutical companies, which primarily target people 60 years of age and older with various different drugs that makes the ease of dying less painful because of the decades and decades of poisoning that the same pharmaceutical companies have done to these people. Chaz Geyser on X.com posted this. Why is it that InfoWars has 4 times the daily viewers of CNN? But CNN has 4,000 employees and generates over $1.5 billion in revenue. The government accounts for about 25 to 40% of the revenue of Big Pharma. Big Pharma alone is at least 20% of CNN's revenue because drug companies know if they buy ads, the networks won't negatively talk about them and the effects of their products. So the government has leveraged networks like CNN through its advertisers and corporate media revenue. Has nothing to do with genuine advertising investments, but everything to do with the fact that CNN and others are being paid off. This is why U.S. pharmaceutical advertising laws are more lenient compared to other first world countries. The U.S. and New Zealand are the only 2 countries that allow direct-to-consumer advertising of prescription drugs. Most other developed nations, such as Canada, the UK, and the EU, only allow limited drug advertising without promoting specific drugs. Rarely do you see a negative report about pharmaceutical products from legacy media sources. Instead, they attack Alex Jones because alternative media has rendered these antiquated institutions irrelevant. They understand that their monopoly on media has been the only reason the government props them up and directs them. As soon as the deep state realizes traditional media is powerless, then it'll cease to exist. They're doing everything they can to stop the inevitable outcome of decades of conspiracies to deceive the people. That in the end, the truth wins. And I agree with Chase here that we are watching the death of mainstream media. We are watching the massive decline of mainstream media. If Mark Cuban in some way, shape, or form was able to buy Fox News, it would be a laughingstock and nobody would ever watch it again. All of their viewers would take off and go to X and various other social media accounts and follow people like us. We are the news. We are the media. We are the people who have taken over the idea of information. Exactly what a certain operation had set out to do is to take over the idea of information. See, you can't tell the people, you have to show them. And over the last 8 years, it has absolutely been shown and proven that the media is nothing more than an extension of the federal government. And not only the federal government, but the bureaucracy, the deep state, the intelligence agencies, that they have heavily invested in media companies around the world and have influenced governments and have influenced people and mass amounts of people to riot, to protest, to produce color revolutions, to overthrow various different countries. We looked at some of the documents the other day with the Central Intelligence Agency and what they did specifically and how NATO did Operation Gladio. None of this ever stopped. Operation Mockingbird, it never stopped. But here's the thing. It's not a matter of stopping what they're doing. It's a matter of breaking through the programming. It's a matter of being able to recognize a psychological warfare operation when you see it. It's being able to recognize a cover-up when you see it. Being able to recognize who's the patsy and who's not. It's being able to see through the illusion that is being presented to you. And it's one of the most important things as a human being that we can develop this sense, this ability. When I started the Red Pill Project, I came out with a quote that I thought really wrapped it up because this was really true to my heart and still is. But the reason it was true to my heart is because I believed in what I was saying, and I still do believe in what I was saying. I was putting out information, how I saw it, how I understood it, and I was putting it out in various different podcast formats. I believed in the Constitution and the First Amendment, and I was immediately censored. Not only censored, but I was eradicated from the internet and my social media profiles, all my distribution channels. Overnight, I went from a full-time podcaster to basically unemployed. Then we started seeing an infiltration. We started seeing all these various other podcasts and influencers who didn't get deleted, or new ones that came about. And they started garnering massive followings. See, after I got ejected and deleted, I started immediately creating new channels. I was live streaming the 14 people 4 years ago, live, 14 people. Some of them were in here. And eventually, more and more people found me again and found me again and found me again, and we came back into it. But at the same time, a lot of these other influencers that I watched rise up and I listened to, and not only was the messaging off, but you begin to develop the understanding that they are either propagating a psyop or they are the psyop. And the reason I say that is because the cabal, the deep state, the IGO, International Global Order, they understood and understand that the mainstream media is no longer relevant, that it isn't working anymore. And so they had to take alternative perspectives to go and infiltrate the MAGA and the truth communities and all of these other populist movements that are rising up. So they did. And so I came up with this quote, and it's simply this, is never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are, what authority they possess or profess. Not myself, not Trump, not the Pope, not anybody. Unless you can prove it through your own research, your own investigation, through your own inquiry, and through your own volition. And I don't mean to just go out there and validate a source. Oh, he's talking about this executive order. Yep, there's that executive order. Yep, it said exactly what he said in the executive order. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about understanding the information. Understanding the information not from an observer or outsider's perspective, but from an insider, subject matter expert's perspective. Really digging in and researching things to the heart of the matter. Digging down deep into the foundation of what you're trying to understand. If you can do that and you can come back and say someone's full of shit, then you have every ability to defend yourself when that person retaliates against you. That's the truth. That's who we all should be, and that's who we should all strive to be. Now, yesterday, Israel launched a massive attack on Hezbollah throughout the Middle East, primarily Lebanon. The official story is that Israel was able to hijack the supply chain. They were able to modify these pagers with PETN explosives, a few micrograms of it, place it close to the battery, and then somehow overload those batteries simultaneously, producing an electrical trigger, which detonated the phones. Today, massive amounts of handheld radios incurred the same fate. Push-to-talk radios, including cell phones and various other electrical devices. There was reports through Lebanon that solar panels were blowing up, that cell phone companies, iPhones, were blowing up. Now, I'm going to show, I think I showed it to you yesterday, but I'm going to show it to you again. This is a video of an iPhone blowing up. All right? Now, the process of how this happens, I will talk about in a minute. That is a lithium-ion battery exploding. If you watch some of the video footage from yesterday, one of the things you will see is something very, very similar to exactly that. If penton explosives were utilized within these devices, there would be none of the devices left. I'm going to say that. There would be none of the devices left. But yet, we have remnants of those devices that are absolutely left. Massive amounts of injuries, fires all over the place. So, I had a theory, and I put my theory out there. And more every day, my theory is getting confirmed as this stuff begins to come forth. I put out yesterday, Israel blew up mobile devices by overloading the lithium-ion batteries. Now Hezbollah terrorists are concentrating in hospitals. It brings up a few different facts and scenarios. Technology exists to turn a phone or network battery device into an explosive. That's scary. Israel knows the location of every single networked member of Hezbollah. Truth. Will Israel attack the hospital that terrorists are concentrating to and eliminate them all at the same time? Probably not. But it's a possibility. Now, for clarification, the compound PETN, P-E-T-N, was used to amplify the explosion. There's supposed to be a question mark next to this. I say no. The batteries were remotely overloaded. It can be done to anybody. This is a video from Chris Damas, a cyber technology expert, talking about this on a TED Talk in 2014.
We're entering an age where we can stop him with the press of a button from 1,000 miles away. Because whether he knew it or not, as soon as he decided to use his cell phone, he stepped into the realm of cyber. A well-crafted cyber attack could break into his phone, disable the overvoltage protections on his battery, drastically overload the circuit, cause the battery to overheat and explode. No more phone, no more detonator, maybe no more terrorist, all with the press of a button from 1,000 miles away.
All from the press of a button 1,000 miles away. Now replicate that 1,000 times. It works the same no matter what. After looking into this for the last 2 days and understanding the various points of technology that are utilized in something like this, I have a lot to say. Number one, we'll come back to that in a second. We're going to go to number one here. More batteries exploding from Hezbollah, reasons and intentions. This is a post I made on x.com. And I highly recommend you go read it, and if you can, share it. Identify high-profile actors with affiliations to Hezbollah and connections. Preparations for next wave of attacks and ground invasion. So, what are the reasons why they did this? They wanted to identify high-profile actors within the ranks of Hezbollah. They know every single phone device that went off. Those people got injured or are dead and went to the hospital. You don't think that Israel is tracking that and knows every single damn person who was injured because of these devices? Absolutely they do. Now they have a list of names and faces. Next is they are making preparations for the next wave of attacks on a ground invasion. What did they just do? Not only psychologically, they just took away the ability for Hezbollah to communicate. Hezbollah is out there detonating smart devices all over the place. Now, the official narrative is what I just said. PETN explosive was added to the phone in the supply chain, blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. It's not explosives, people. Israel didn't magically pull off one of the greatest supply chain hijacks of all time. Instead, they are simply using a technological exploit mixed in with some damn good intelligence. How are they doing it? Israel was able to acquire cell phone, pager, and direct communication device info through cyber and SIGINT methodologies. Once they had all that info, all they would need to do is wait for the devices to come online and they become trackable and detectable. By knowing the device make, model, and operating dynamics, they then use a tech exploit to turn the devices into exploding jihadi killers. Why is this being covered up? The world would be in mass panic knowing that the government have a technology to explode your phone at will. What is thermal runaway? Thermal runaway of a lithium-ion battery triggered by electromagnetic interference means that the battery can overheat and potentially catch fire due to exposure to electromagnetic waves, which can induce high currents within the battery, exceeding its safe operating limits and causing a rapid, uncontrollable temperature increase, leading to catastrophic failure known as thermal runaway. Essentially, the electromagnetic interference acts as a trigger for the battery to overheat significantly due to its electrical characteristics, like acting as a resonant circuit when exposed to certain frequencies. Electromagnetic interference strength and frequency. The intensity and frequency of the electromagnetic radiation play a crucial role in triggering thermal runaway. Now, who said that? Not me. I repeated it. But that's the scientist from the IEEE Transactions Electromagnetic Capabilities Department who wrote about it and published it in papers. Thermal runaway of lithium-ion batteries triggered by electromagnetic interference. So how could this be done then? Well, let's think about this. Here's a thread that came out a little while ago today. New wave of electronic explosions in Lebanon. Explosions all across Lebanon, including Beirut. This time, other gadgets, including car radios, seem to be the cause. Explosions are taking place inside residences and harming civilians. Car full of civilians burning across Lebanon after the radios exploded. Axios confirmed Israel remotely blew up thousands of personal radios as a second stage of yesterday's attack. Now they want you to believe that PETN is inside these things. It's not. Lebanese citizens share the moment the explosions going on grew at a funeral in Beirut. Other electronic devices like fingerprint locks, alarm clocks also exploded. Cars, motorbikes, and other devices exploded after Israel terrorist attacks on Lebanon's civilian assets. In the meantime, teams of the Iranian Red Crescent are working around the clock to transfer Lebanese patients from yesterday's explosions to Iran for treatment, basically bringing their Hezbollah members back to Iran. Now, this post actually confirmed my fucking theory. This thread confirmed my earlier post. No explosives in these devices. This is a zero-day exploit using directed beam technology to produce thermal runaway effect in the batteries of these devices. The beam would have to travel from a directed point to the target. If there are other batteries or some of the similar configurations in the vicinity, they too would be affected, like fingerprint machines, alarm clocks, cell phone companies or cell phone stores with iPhones in it. Hence why only a few iPhones on the table blew up, but not all of them. My guess is, and I'm almost positive that this is what's going on, that they installed in these areas some modified 5G antennas specifically designed for MIMO directed beam targeting. In other words, a weaponized 5G antenna or a directed energy weapon. And all you would have to do is provide the right frequency from those antennas, which would latch on to the connectivity of the phone, the MEID, or just point blank directed beam to those phones. Remember, they knew the devices. Now, any device that's in the proximity of that beam is going to blow up as well if it's a lithium-ion battery. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Innocent people are getting hurt because of this technology. Why? Because it is not PETN explosives that are being utilized. It is a zero-day exploit. First time we've ever seen it. With directed energy beam technology being focused at these various different points. How do they do it simultaneously? They utilized a 5G antenna specifically designed for this. Basically, is it easier to go out there and place 3,600 pagers, 250 walkie-talkies? Or is it easier to go out there and place 3 cell phone antennas? Replace the 3 cell phone antennas. You still have 5G connectivity. It works and looks exactly like the one that was installed there, except for one array of antennas. You gotta remember, there's 1 million antennas on these arrays. One array of antennas operates on a high voltage power supply. And when it connects directly to those phones, once the initiation occurs, it produces a high potential beam, high voltage potential beam that is directed at those cell phones, those pagers, those devices, which overload the battery in the thermal runaway. And anything that is in that beam that is coming from that tower blows up too. Now, typically what you have is you have a narrow beam that comes out of these things. These are directed beams. I'm telling you, that's what you're dealing with right here. This is why Russia, Iran, and other countries are speaking out like, this isn't right. It's going to be very hard to prove that I'm right, but I'm thinking with more of these exploits coming about, it's going to come about. So another part of this. Now, they said that it was a Taiwanese company that was associated, how they hijacked the supply chain was through this Taiwanese company. The Taiwanese company came out and said, we don't know what the hell you're talking about. Those pagers are actually developed in Hungary by another company. You ready for this part? The Hungarian company that produced the explodable pagers for Lebanon generated a revenue of 665 million pounds last year and only has 1 employee. What does that tell you? That tells you that the Mossad went out there, set up a shell company, created a fake company, funded that company, only had 1 employee. And then they had a contract through this Taiwanese company as a cover story to cover up their 0-day exploit. That's my guess on this. We will see if I'm right, but I'm pretty fucking positive I'm right on this. Now, on the other side of the house, are you ready for this part? Iranian hackers sent peoples associated with Joe Biden's campaign unsolicited information that had been stolen from the Republican Donald Trump's campaign, the FBI and other federal agencies have said. Well, isn't that interesting? So wait a minute here. A few days before the first Donald Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, we get word that Iranian hackers have hacked the Donald Trump campaign. Then we get this patsy dude, Thomas Crooks, who I don't even think that was his body that was found on the scene. You got to remember, they did direct DNA testing on scene. This means that the FBI went up there, they took his saliva, they put it into a little machine and said, oh, that's Thomas Crooks, a guy that has 0 criminal record, that's never once been on the FBI, oh, maybe been on the FBI radar, but never had a criminal record. His DNA should not be on file. He was not a convicted felon. But within 10 minutes, they knew who he was, and they did the DNA analysis right there on the scene. Something wrong with that? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. There's no proof that that person who was shot dead there at Butler, PA, was Thomas Crooks. I think Thomas Crooks was dead long before that. I think that Thomas Crooks was the Lee Harvey Oswald. He was the patsy. Thomas Crooks had 2 foreign bank accounts associated with him that he probably didn't even know about. How much you want to bet that we'll find out here relatively soon that those bank accounts are directly connected with Iran? See, I talked about it for the last few months. Someone made the decision to take out Donald Trump. They went in there expecting to get the shot heard around the world, expecting to see Donald Trump's head blow up and posted on the New York Times. And they knew MAGA, the truth movement, patriots, would stand up and fight and rise up. So they had to have a cover story. The cover story was Iran. The cover story was Iran just took out Donald Trump. And then a 9/11 ensues, right? Because that'd be a 9/11. Is the United States rallies and patriotism against Iran, and Israel joins forces. We must win this war in the memory of Donald Trump. That was the fucking plan. And it failed. So what have we been seeing? Now we're seeing this second shooter the other day at Mar-a-Lago has direct connections, saying that Iran should go out there and kill Donald Trump. But then he's directly connected with the Azov battalion over in Ukraine, which is directly their propaganda arm, which in the video he was in is directly funded by the Central Intelligence Agency. See, this is what I mean. It's becoming harder and harder for these psyops to become successful, because eventually all the puzzle pieces, all the pearls get strung, and you get to see through their bullshit. Today, we come up with reports that there is a bomb that was detected at the New York City rally of Donald Trump. What is the official story? A man not affiliated with law enforcement whatsoever is training his dog to be a bomb-sniffing dog, is walking around cars at the rally. His dog hits on a car, and he goes and tells police that his bomb-sniffing dog had smelled explosives. That's what fucking happened. This guy's not a cop. He's not law enforcement. What was that? That was a operation. Don't know who that guy was, but I can tell you what he was doing. What he was doing was testing the response of NYPD, of Secret Service, of law enforcement. They were trying to see how fast information would travel if this was the case, if it was a bomb. It was social engineering in one context, setting the narrative. Now, former Navy SEAL Eli Crane joined Benny Johnson the other day, and he concludes that the evidence suggests possible Secret Service mole after a second attempt of Donald Trump. Watch to watch. There's a very real possibility there's a mole in the Secret Service. Now, I don't disagree with Eli, but I do disagree that there is a mole in the Secret Service, because the Secret Service wasn't who was protecting Donald Trump. It was the Department of Homeland Security that was protecting Donald Trump. But I also believe that it wasn't a mole within the DHS. What do I think happened or is happening to Donald Trump? Go back to what we just talked about. The narrative of the assassinations has to be pinned on a foreign adversary. It has to be pinned on Iran. It has to be pinned on China. It has to be pinned on Russia. Because there's no other way that they would be able to get around it. Now, I'm going to pull up a post here. And I'm doing this because I want to show kind of some bullshit that people propagate. And then show you what they say when they get called out on it. And this is kind of interesting. If I can find the damn post. Maybe it's in my replies section of my profile. Let me see here. That moment's there. I know it's here. I know it's here. Hold on. Now, there's a lot of posts going on today, FYI. Nope, that wasn't it. Oh, we're going to cover that too. That's going to be fun. Give me a second here. It was from a few days ago, so I got to kind of pull it out. There it is. Okay. So, I don't know Jan Helper Hayes. I've never talked to the woman other than this exchange here on X.com. I know of her. I know she was once, a friend of Trump. I don't agree with a lot, probably 90% of the things that she says. But she puts this out, 8:30 p.m. on September 16th. A source tells me that a leak in Trump's whereabouts is coming from Homeland Security, not the Secret Service. Homeland Security is leaking location details to the FBI, and the FBI is running the assassins. The entire top leadership of the FBI is desperately trying to figure out how to eliminate Trump, while the loyal elements of the Secret Service are trying to stop it. Homeland Security and U.S. State Department are full on treating as criminals at this point. If Homeland can't eliminate Trump soon, State Department will make sure a war begins with Russia. If they fail, hundreds of top people within the FBI and Homeland Security are either going to flee the country or be criminally prosecuted by a Trump presidency. This is what's at stake. Now, firstly, these people don't go into an attempted assassination like Butler, Pennsylvania, without a fucking plan. These people know what they're doing. They're not stupid, and they're not running around with their heads cut off trying to figure out what's going on. So that's your first clear indication. But my problem with it is that apparently Jan doesn't have sources other than someone else's X account, because verbatim, she posted exactly what Health Ranger Mike Adams posted the day before. Now, she says, Joshua, use your brain. His is a picture. Do you really think I would copy it word for word? Yeah, Jan, I screenshotted his fucking post and posted the picture of his post. But then she says, this is where I want you guys to pay attention. She says, we all received this message in a WhatsApp group. I pasted the message I received. Do you remember many years ago when I sat here talking to you about how there's these groups of influencers that sit around in these various text groups and WhatsApp groups, and they get messages from people who claim to have sources and so forth, and they propagate it like a narrative? Do you need any more evidence? Now, I did reply to this. And for some reason, my reply is not in here. Let me see if I can find my reply. Oh, my reply is definitely not in here. Where the hell is my reply? Well, there was a whole bunch of replies to this, and I wonder if did she block me? No, she didn't block me. I'm trying to look for my reply to this because I replied back to her for this one right here, and that's apparently not here anymore. Well, either way. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Here's my reply. That's not a source. That is a group sharing info, and probably not very good info if this is what they are saying. It's generic and lacks details. Speculative at that. And by the way, I know who it was who said that. And that's exactly what it is. Speculative, an opinion. To give you some info on the matter, it is not a person, but instead a cyber-related issue. All scheduling goes through digital systems. Those systems are compromised. Anytime Trump moves, a schedule is generated for resources. Remember when they said Trump's campaign emails had been hacked by Iran? That was setting the narrative. The play after the first assassination attempt was to blame Iran and allow war to ensue. They knew protests and riots would come, so they had a plan to dump it all on Iran and become a large-scale war, which, like 9/11, would have rallied our nation together and concerted the war effort. The foreign bank accounts that Crooks had, he didn't even know about. Crooks was probably dead before the incident and oblivious to all of this. He was just a patsy. Those accounts will show a connection to Iran. Man who appeared intent on killing Trump wrote a book urging Iran to assassinate the president. Secret Service ramped up security after intel of Iran plot to assassinate Trump. Now we're finding out the Joe Biden administration received information from Iran who hacked the Trump campaign. You know, if a lot of these influencers just utilize their own brain and just look through it, pearl strung it all, they'd be able to figure it out. Or if they got some actual fucking sources that gave them legitimate information, maybe that would help too. But a lot of the information out there right now is just fucking bullshit. But Jan, if you want to know more, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk. The Trump attempt. So this is from CanCon. I'm being told by a reliable source that Ryan Wesley Ruth parked his Nissan SUV at the library across the street as early as Friday night and was camped out in the tree line, 15 to 20 foot tall staggered line of Clusia hedge Saturday and Sunday. He also had multiple firearms, including SKS and his hunting rifle, and another weapon that may have been full auto. He did, according to my source, exchange gunfire with the Secret Service before fleeing. He pulled over on his own accord in Martin County. How the fuck does that happen? It happens because, number one, Secret Service doesn't know how to do the job, Homeland Security doesn't know how to do the job of Secret Service. It happens because it was allowed to happen. It happens because a felon in the United States of America can apparently get these types of guns. So today, by the way, Joe Biden called Donald Trump 2 days ago when this event happened. Donald Trump didn't answer, but I think he called him back. Isn't it interesting that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are talking and in communication with each other? They have each other's numbers. Just saying, deals were made. Today, we find out Trump has been granted presidential level security following the second assassination attempt. Joe Biden just authorized presidential level security for Donald Trump. In the wake of the second assassination attempt, Trump has been granted the same comprehensive protection package he received as president of the United States. His elevated security detail now includes counter-sniper teams, counter-assault forces, counter-surveillance capabilities, protective intelligence analysis, and drone surveillance teams. Does that sound like a man who's going to lose the election? Now, interesting that the Iran-Israel conflict is brewing right now, and Israel just did this zero-day exploit on all these devices. Iran sent a letter to the United Nations claiming that it will respond to the envoy in Lebanon, the ambassador of Iran in Lebanon, who was injured. And they're going to respond and retaliate against Israel, and they reserve the right to retaliate against Israel. Now, you got to remember, Iran did the same thing the last time when the Hamas leader was killed in Tehran. They said, we're gonna respond. Nothing happened. The reason nothing happened is because Iran has patience. See, Israel is making the war happen. They're instigating the war, and they're trying to make it happen as fast as possible. They will continue to do this, but you can't tell the people. You have to show the people. And Iran truly understands that the Middle East is not ready for an all-out war, especially with all the U.S. naval presence in the region. But the U.S. naval presence is leaving at the end of the month, right before the election time frame. Just saying. Now, there's a lot of rhetoric online coming about with Trump assassination attempts and stuff like that. There is this video by the real leader, Arya. Looks like a trans person. I'm not going to play it just because it could potentially get us banned on certain platforms that we are at, because the rhetoric is very dangerous of what this person is talking about. But I'll just say that a lefty out there is saying that Donald Trump needs to be eliminated by certain means. Now, this lady, I will play a certain clip of, because they're not going to ban her rhetoric. But listen to her rhetoric.
Boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence. Because
so this is going to go into the next part. Hold on, let's play another one. Let's play the next one. This one's a little bit longer. Let's throw Hillary back on the screen, because I know everybody loves to hear Hillary. Let's listen to this.
He's still being taught, especially by the media, that the more offensive he is, the more he can dominate the media space entirely. And I feel like you've been a good diagnoser of that, not only from when you were up against him, but from what others have done. So do you have an antidote for that, or a way that people can talk themselves out of taking that bait?
I think that's really a critical question, and I think there's a couple of things going on here. You mentioned the press, and sadly, the press is still not able to cover Trump the way that they should. They careen from one outrage to the next. What was outrageous 3 days ago is no longer on the front pages, even though it threatens the physical safety of so many people, particularly, as you point out, immigrants that he and Vance have decided to demonize. And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump. His demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it. They were merciless about what they saw as President Biden's, problems in the debate and calling for him to withdraw. I believe Donald Trump has disqualified himself over and over and over again to be a presidential candidate, let alone a president. The second thing, though, is that part of what Trump is counting on is for people to get desensitized. I mean, oh my gosh, did you hear what he said yesterday? Did you hear who he attacked? Did you hear the viciousness? And it just like with a shrug, okay, fine, we're moving on. Well, Americans need to understand that they have to take Trump both seriously and literally. He has said what he wants to do. He and his allies with Project 2025.
So right there, by the way, in the state of California, what she just said right there is illegal, and she should be prosecuted under the law because there has been no attempt by the Trump campaign whatsoever to associate with Project 2025. So that is a deceptive act in the midst of an election, and this is content produced by MSNBC. They need to be criminally prosecuted under California law.
His desire to be a dictator at
Oh, yeah. When has Trump ever said he wanted to be a dictator?
At least on day one. All of that is in the public record.
So she is producing what's called a strong arm, right? She's putting all this garbage out there, but basically saying it's in the public record for you to see. It's all there. It's not Hillary Clinton. And I don't want to make your list, but it's not. And that rhetoric that you're seeing right there, that's what's getting the assassinations attempts on Trump's life, is that rhetoric right there. We need to stop him. Angry dictator producing violence. But what she said before was the interesting part. How Americans are taking part in the dissemination of dangerous propaganda and disinformation, and they need to be prosecuted criminally. Hillary Clinton just said that you don't have a First Amendment right, that you don't have the ability to say what you want, when you want, and how you want to say it. She just said that we need to prosecute those people, and she was talking about it in reference to the Russia connection. And see, here you have it. Iran and Russia are partners, economic partners and military partners. Remember last week? Russia has received ballistic missiles from Iran. Iran's like, we don't even make ballistic missiles. Russia's like, why the hell would we buy ballistic missiles from them? We got thousands of them that we make right here. But EU's like, yep. Russia received ballistic missiles from Iran. Germany's like, there's the picture of the ship. That's just a cargo ship. No, that one's got ballistic missiles on it. And then Blinken, well, Russia's got ballistic missiles they got from Iran, and that's a mass violation of all of our agreements. And so we're going to give ballistic missiles to Ukraine, and we're going to help them launch them deep inside Russia. Do you see how the narrative is set, people? Do you see how they utilize the rhetoric in the mainstream media to put together an operation over multiple weeks and months? That when certain events begin to play out, like the assassination of Donald Trump, the assassination attempt at Donald Trump, they would have utilized that as the catalyst to go after Iran and then immediately after Russia. And they are still setting the stage exactly with all that. Holy shit, I can't get through an hours of news, man. This is crazy. So the United Kingdom estimates Russia's Ukraine casualties 610,000. So Ukraine is claiming, the UK is claiming, that Russia has lost 610,000 people in the Ukraine conflict. I want to bring a little analysis here for you. So Ukraine has upped its disinfo brigade funded by the CIA, claiming Russia deaths have exceeded 600,000. This is 3 times the amount of deaths that the U.S. and allies encountered in Vietnam, one of the bloodiest wars in American history that spanned a decade. 3 times the amount of people in a year and a half. In World War II, the U.S. had a death toll of about 400,000, about 75% of what they're claiming Russia has had in a year and a half. Russia has utilized strategic strikes on Ukraine, using one missile to kill 20, 30, 100, 200 people at a time in the military units. Ukraine has suffered about a 500,000 person loss. This is why they have to recruit women and teenagers into their military. But Russia is not recruiting teenagers and women into their military. They're still strong. It's sad that people are dying, but this is massive propaganda. And what they want to show people is that, look, NATO's going to go to war, but Russia's already weak. They've already lost 600,000 people. Their military, they can't even recruit. If that was the case, the PSYOPs would be operating inside of Russia to produce a revolution against Putin. But those attempts did fail. You remember? Last year, they failed. And the reason is firstly, not everybody loves Putin, especially in Russia. But he's got his supporters. At the end of the day, though, everybody in Russia loves Russia. It's like the U.S. We all love this country, and we'll fight to defend it. And so it's very similar in context to that. They might not like Putin. They might think he's a dictator. He is. But they'll fight for their country. Now, yesterday, I was talking briefly about the Divine Nine. You don't know who the Divine Nine are. The Divine Nine is a group of 9 different fraternities and sororities that act as gatekeepers for a lot of people within the Black communities when they go to college and before they can get those top executive jobs or move into politics or even move into Hollywood or sports. They join these fraternities. The Divine Nine is nothing more than Skull and Bones or the various different secret society fraternities that we see at Ivy League universities. Now, the name Divine Nine is quite interesting because just a day ago, we were talking about accelerationism. And one of the leading organizations behind accelerationism is the O9A, which is the Order of 9 Angles, otherwise known as the Order of 9 Angels or the Order of 9 Lights. We see the Divine Nine, and then again, Divine Nine. Angle and angel are the same thing. You can look at that as divine light. Now, the Order of 9 Angles is associated with various different white supremacy and neo-Nazi affiliations. And I was saying the other day that this is foundational. These are foundational recruiting platforms that act as gateways to the upper echelons of the dark occult. The Divine Nine is no different. Now, popular American rapper and record producer Sean P. Diddy Combs has been arrested in Manhattan after a grand jury indictment. Let's listen to what Tom McDonald, whose music we occasionally play on this channel, has to say about this.
Diddy's homes are being raided for sex trafficking allegations. You're telling me the guy who rapped, "I won't be satisfied till all my brothers get it, see you hit it, and then I hit it, turn a freak to a bisexual, and if she's flexible, F the brother next to you." You're telling me the guy that rapped that might be a predator? Shocker. Personally, I didn't trust this guy after he had Tupac killed. That was the red flag for me. Can we make sure the security cameras wherever they lock Diddy up are working? Because we all know what happened the last time a billionaire got arrested for the same same thing. Epstein! Pardon me. And now Diddy's been accused of sleeping with like a bunch of mainstream artists. Meek Mill, Usher. You know what the best part about being an independent rapper is? P. Diddy doesn't try to you. Like these claims coming in about P. Diddy make R. Kelly look like a Teletubby, and he peed on people. But you know what the craziest part about this whole thing is? There's still rappers out there who would gladly let P. Diddy bone them for a little fame. Stay away from the mainstream entertainment business.
100%, Tom. Agreed. So there was reports that at a lot of P. Diddy's homes, they were finding this pink substance. The pink substance is known as, I think it's a putlia. It's also known as 2C-B. It's dimethoxyphenolphthaleamine. It is known as Nexus. It's a synthetic psychedelic drug of the 2C family, mainly used as a recreational drug. First synthesized in 1974 by the CIA and gained initial reputation for potential psychotherapeutic use, but its use has been limited mainly to recreational use. To date, there's limited scientific information regarding the drug's pharmacokinetics and pharmacological effects in humans. The largest producers of 2CB, you ready for this, are Venezuelan gangs. I'm serious. Venezuelan gangs. Isn't that interesting? Now, we knew that all this was coming, right? You knew, I knew, we all knew. Oh, I wanted to go back in here. I want to play this short video.
I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say I'm so free.
Let's go to the next one. This is Ian. Let's listen to what Ian has to say about it.
Well, tonight, they arrested P. Diddy. News just broke that they took him into custody in New York City. So I figured now's as good a time as any to shit all over Sean again and remind everyone just how horrible this man is. So if you haven't read the court documents and done any of the other research on this guy, this producer he worked with named Lil Rod brought this lawsuit against him. Rodney Jones v. Sean Combs, alleging RICO allegation, which is like organized crime. And he alleged that a member of this RICO organization was none other than the CEO of Universal Music Group, Lucian Grange. Universal Music Group produced 1/3 of the top 100 songs last year, including Taylor Swift. Quote, while living and traveling with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones discovered that Combs had hidden cameras in every room of his homes. Mr. Jones believed that Mr. Combs had recordings of defendants Lucian Charles Grange, Ethiopia Haber, as well as other celebrities, music label executives, politicians, and athletes. Upon information and belief, these individuals were recorded without their knowledge and consent, and as in the case with the homosexual sex tape of Stevie J that Mr. Combs provided to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties. Upon information and belief, due to this treasure trove of evidence he has in his possession, Mr. Combs believes that he is above the law and is untouchable. Well, the diddler just got touched. But don't worry, I'm not going to drop that spice and then not give you more details. So Diddy was big on recording all kinds of things, and he frequently took this guy's phone from him and recorded things at parties. So this dude wound up with hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity on his own cell phone, including the acquisition, use, distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms, the displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms, Combs providing laced alcoholic beverages to minors and sex workers at his homes in California, New York, the Virgin Islands, and Florida. Yes, those Virgin Islands. Diddy's brother, Christian, drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact of his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, which is horrendous, and I'm not going to read from it. It's absolutely disgusting. This guy's a piece of shit. Actor Cuba Gooding Jr., yes, that actor, Cuba Gooding Jr., sexually harassing and assaulting Mr. Jones. Yes, here are photos of Cuba doing the things. Here's more photos of Cuba Gooding Jr. trying to fuck this guy. Quote, forcibly touching Mr. Jones, fondling Mr. Jones' leg, his upper inner thighs and his groin, the small of his back, near his buttocks and his shoulders. Jones rejected his advances, and Mr. Gooding Jr. did not stop until Mr. Jones forcibly pushed him away. The following is a screenshot. Homie witnessed a shooting where either Diddy or his brother shot a dude in the bathroom and then got the cops to just totally not prosecute, not investigate, say it was a drive-by. They drove away. But what Diddy's scheme was all about was getting rappers to do gay stuff on camera, though they did not know it, so that he had blackmail on them so that he could kind of control them and thereby control the whole music industry that he had kind of helped create. And to be fair, I mean, maybe he saw some signs that maybe it would work, but apparently homie wasn't having it. Sorry, I'm just making jokes. Quote, Mr. Combs, Diddy, went so far as to share a video of Stevie J anally penetrating a Caucasian male without a condom. This was done to ease Mr. Jones's anxiety concerning homosexuality. According to Diddy, this is a normal practice in the music industry. Look, even Stevie J is doing it. Diddy informed Mr. Jones that he had engaged in sexual intercourse with rapper Redacted, R&B singer Redacted, and Stevie J. Yes, Diddy's having gay orgies and using it to try to get homie to have more gay orgies because that's what he's all about. Mr. Combs promised to make sure that Mr. Jones wins Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he did gay stuff. So A, Diddy is claiming that he has the power and leverage to get some random dude to win Producer of the Year at the Grammys, and he's leveraging that to get gay sex and blackmail from that gay sex. Diddy's assistant, Defendant Coram, required all employees from the butler, the chef, to the housekeepers to walk around with a pouch or fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana, gummies, Tucci, mixture of ecstasy and cocaine, at all times, so that Diddy could get high anywhere and everywhere. And yes, homeboy has photos of all of it. Diddy maintained this RICO enterprise by using threats of violence, threatening to eat his face, displaying and distributing guns in plaintiffs present, bragging about having law enforcement under control, bragging about murdering people, and bragging about bribing witnesses and jurors in the criminal case concerning the 1999 New York City nightclub shooting with Shine. Are you getting the picture yet? And it would appear that one of the ways that Diddy had law enforcement under control was through his chief of security, Fahim Muhammad, who the whole staff was allegedly told to contact if anything ever went wrong with police or law enforcement, and he would be the fixer that would make it all disappear. Well, Fahim Muhammad is the former head of security for Michael Jackson. This kid had just graduated college with a business degree, and he became the head of security for the King of Pop at age 21 or 22. And then, whoopsies, that same year, head of Pop died. This guy was second on the scene. And then his very next job, after failing, was to become the head of Diddy's entire operation. Think about it. The head of security in a blackmail ring needs to know all the dirt, otherwise he's not securing shit. Diddy formed his record label in the first place with a lot of help, basically being selected by Clive Davis, who's got a lot of mob ties and other stuff in his history. But he's been running huge portions of the music industry before we were all born. We're talking back to signing names originally like Janis Joplin, Pink Floyd, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I say all of that to just show you the scope that this is not just one rapper doing bad things. This is the whole music industry. This is how it runs.
Now, I'm going to stop there. There's a few more minutes. That is on my X page, so you can find that there. Reports are coming out today that Diddy's life is in danger at the New York City jail. Former warden warns that he's in serious danger at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, where violent inmates may target him. According to the former warden, Cameron Lindsay, Diddy, 54, is being held in a special housing unit awaiting a sex trafficking after being denied bail. He denied $50 million bail. Now, I don't really probably put Dom Reluque's stuff out there, but he nailed this one on the head. I wanted to bring this one up. 2018, a man named Jonathan Oddie, who claimed he was Sean Diddy Combs' sex slave, shot up the inside of Trump's National Doral Golf Club and was taken into custody by police after opening fire. fired. Jonathan also claimed that Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, and Diddy were secretly gay. The indictment was unsealed today as Diddy's would force women to have intercourse with male sex workers. Check this out.
Combs.
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call yourself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I was like a sex slave, okay? For them, that's what I was. That's all right? I caught herpes, and I came back and I sued him for the herpes and won. But Diddy and Ross, which they're good buddies, okay? They're gay.
Who?
Both. Diddy and Ross. And Khaled. They're all gay, okay?
DJ Khaled, Rick Ross, and P. Diddy?
Yeah.
They're all gay?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
I seen the liquid cocaine, I've drank it myself. Having sex with Diddy and Cassie. Okay? It's not good. He drinks it all the time. Alright? He calls it GG. That's liquid cocaine.
Alright.
I've settled $4.125 million with Diddy. I've settled $4.125 million with Diddy. Okay, but he's scared that I was going to expose him.
I don't want to talk about Diddy right now. I want to talk about you. Help me understand.
So he came out of this, became incredibly wealthy afterwards. So Alpha Warrior published this earlier today, and I think that he's right. Red X revealed the elite's dark secrets are about to explode. Can you hear the birds sing before the storm? The winds are shifting and the songbird is about to break their silence. Is it P. Diddy, Ghislaine Maxwell? The elites are trembling as their darkest secrets come to light. Sex crimes, trafficking, exploitation, hidden in the shadows for too long. Is this the moment we've been waiting for? This isn't just any storm. It's a storm Trump warned about that would come. The information psyop like never before. A political reckoning that's ready to hit full force. The media won't be able to contain it. The whispers are turning into roars, and once the song is sung, the fallout will be unstoppable. A psychological and political earthquake is brewing, and those who thought they were untouchable will soon feel the ground shake beneath them. Are you ready for the truth to shatter the lies? Hold tight. The storm is almost here. Nothing will ever be the same. And the conviction for Ghislaine Maxwell was held up in a UK court. And obviously, Weinstein is in court again under new criminal charges. So this is where it gets interesting because P. Diddy is in jail. There's warnings upon his life of what could happen there. But this goes back to something that we've been talking about. The multi-headed hydra, the various different factions that exist, that these other factions that have ran the deep state, the Obama, the Clinton, the dark occultists and Satanists, they're under attack. They're losing their power. It's the War of the Roses, people. Wall Street, Silicon Valley are siding with Trump. Massive billionaires siding with Trump. What is that? Capitulation? They're siding with Trump. Those other ones are losing power and control, and their empire is coming down. Now, P. Diddy, I think he'll be dead within a week. Probably commit suicide in jail. At least that's my thoughts. But we'll see what happens. 23andMe. Do you remember this company, 23andMe? Their whole board of directors resigned hours after a $30 million settlement over a data breach that targeted Jewish and Chinese users. This is 1 month after Susan Wojcicki, the former CEO of YouTube and sister to 23andMe CEO Ann Wojcicki, passed away. Susan, by the way, was the ex-wife of Sergey Brin, the founder of Google. What does that have to do with anything? The hack on 23andMe wasn't just Chinese and Jewish users. It was over 8 million users' data, almost all the data in 23andMe's database. And why did the board of directors all resign? Because the hack was internally derived. Alphabet, Google's parent company, is happy with the results of that hack. Why? Research. Google, Epstein, Southern Trust Company, New Albany Company. I made some notes about it if anybody was wondering. But first, let's take an image here for a second. Let's look at this. Mark Cuban is laughing at Elon Musk's tweets and saying that he wants to buy Fox News and he wants to buy X from Musk. I wonder why. What's Mark so scared about? P. Diddy's in jail. Ghislaine Maxwell is going to stay in jail. These people are going to talk. What are these people? Why is Hillary Clinton and Mark Cuban all of a sudden very, very vocal and verbal? What are they so afraid of? Jeffrey Epstein, education philanthropist, funds the first Head Start program in the Caribbean, which targeted young children in the Virgin Islands. The main company, known as Southern Trust, was created in 2012. You're ready to get some notes here, people. Southern Trust Company did consulting services, data mining, and biomedical and financial information. They were a DNA mining firm, searching for clients among big bank and big pharma, using people's genetic sequencing to determine which drugs would work best on them. His various different DNA startups received exclusive tax breaks that only his company received. Several other companies and shell companies were tied into it. FTX, the crypto company, was one of the investors that gave money to some of Jeffrey Epstein's companies. Prominent banks such as Edmund Day Rothschild's group gave millions of dollars in contracts to Jeffrey Epstein's Southern Trust Company. Who's Denise George? She's the former Attorney General of the Virgin Islands. Former, I say, because she was fired from her job after subpoenaing the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, as well as the CEO of Alphabet, Sergey Brin, and Larry Page. Attorney General Denise George was terminated after those. She had another case targeting Epstein a few years prior. Her lawsuit, along with one filed by the New York Times, referred to Southern Trust as a key part of Epstein's criminal activities. Not a part of what he was charged in 2019, though. Epstein's testimony? Epstein said that he wanted to engage children early on, to train them in specific programming that would run artificial intelligence servers meant to power very important algorithms. He did this by funding various initiatives in the Virgin Islands that targeted children. The mentally ill, the poor youth, autistic children, abused children, orphan children, and juvenile offenders. Part of the testimony in this lawsuit talks about how he wanted to genetically sequence the islander population. He also stated how genetic information could be used to determine how to educate the children he wanted to recruit. Epstein also referenced Africa, saying that he did a lot of work there and that it was fertile ground for experimentation. How about the Google connection? Co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page were both subpoenaed by the Virgin Islands. To this day, nobody has heard from Larry Page in months, quite literally months. They've been going through Google's parent company, Alphabet, to try to find him. Google had intelligent connections to the Southern Trust since its inception. Google also was one of the companies that was funded by In-Q-Tel, the Central Intelligence Agency. And Google Maps and Google's search algorithm were actually first developed by the Central Intelligence Agency and the National Geospatial Agency, and then given to Google for commercial use. Julian Assange pointed out that Google is not what it seems and is operating as its own intelligence agency. The New Albany Company, who's that? Created by Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner. Remember Les Wexner, sexual predator, billionaire. Epstein was a partner and invested money into this company. Google just happens to own the land where the New Albany Company is located, which is directly right next to a large Google data center. The Southern Trust dealt with data mining, and the New Albany Company dealt with data aggregation. In 1998, Epstein went to Russia and visited high schools and elementary schools, scouting out children who were gifted in math and science. This is where the information of Benjamin Korczazol comes in. He has ties to a lab in Ethiopia, which was funded by Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein also funded Korczazol's work, known as one of them being as the head of Humanities Plus, formerly the World Transhumanist Association, which was also funded by Epstein. Chief scientist, he's the chief scientist at Hanson Robotics. This is Benjamin Kortzel. Hanson Robotics produces human-like robots, one of them being Sophia, you know, the one that has UAE citizenship in Dubai. Also had teamed up with the blockchain company Cardano, seeking to offer digital ID to the unbanked throughout Africa. They gave digital IDs to 5 million Ethiopian school children with the intention of harvesting their data. Parents in Ethiopia had to choose between their children getting an education or participating in the program. Gortzel said that this data is being used to feed the AI that powers robots like Sophia. There's your key connection. What about Bill Gates? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was not mentioned in any of Jeffrey Epstein's testimony, but it was involved in the efforts to finance the education in the Virgin Islands. Bill Gates also does work in Africa. He has ties to ID 2020, the Digital Identity Alliance, also targeting vulnerable populations, worked overtly with charities that were accused of child abuse and sexual assault, utilizes digital ID programs for stateless people in Southeast Asia. If the stateless people wanted to access food or medical care through the charity, they had to participate in digital ID programs and surrender their biometrics. This is the same type of thing that has been being done in Ethiopia. Epstein was trying to have genetic data, education data, financial data, medical data all tied together. All of this is still going on even after Epstein's death. And there are many other companies out there who are pushing for the same agenda. One of those companies is a private organization that derives out of something known as the Wellcome Trust, and they are known as the Wellcome Leap. They are trying to create a commercial, private version of DARPA. During the Obama administration, they brought in the head of DARPA, the former head of DARPA, by the name of Regina Dugan. She also used to run Google's DARPA equivalent, as well as Hangar 8 at Facebook and Meta. They have a program that is trying to map infant and children's brains by subjecting them to eye tracking technology and other invasive surveillance procedures. This is Google. This is the Wellcome Leap. They're trying to make artificial intelligence that is just like a child's brain. Jeremy Farrar of the Wellcome Leap Foundation is the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. Gortzel is heavily interested in this type of technology, and like Epstein, was likely as well considering funding much of it as well. So what I want to do is kind of throw a little loop out there in the sense of what's happening here with the DNA information. See, a lot of the child sex trafficking that was going on with Epstein and a lot of these people was nothing more than a honeypot operation for various politicians and scientists and very famous and powerful people around the world. We know that. It was being perpetrated by these various different factions that are dark occultists and are totalitarianist, communist, and Satanists. But they had a methodology to the madness. There was a reason why they were doing what they were doing. See, they were collecting the DNA information and feeding it into highly advanced artificial intelligence. It's no surprise that George Soros, Bill Gates, and multiple other billionaires around the world that are associated with those groups that I just talked about there are heavily invested in various different companies like 10x Genomics that utilize CRISPR-Cas9 technology to modify and alter DNA. But see, in order to alter DNA, which is a large structure, highly computational in its nature, you need a highly advanced quantum computing system and artificial intelligence to work together. And you'd have to aggregate decades worth of human DNA data into these machines for them to learn and process all the variations of changes that occur within the DNA. For the last 5 years, we've gotten great information from somebody who works on Google's quantum AI program, who stated that this is exactly what Google, Alphabet, and many other companies are doing, is they are buying off in the commercial market all the data from you, me, and everybody else, all that behavioral profile data that your phones are collecting from various different social media platforms, all that DNA data that was submitted to the World Health Organization, the the CDC and the various other big pharma institutions during COVID-19, all of this data, all your medical data for the last 20 years is all being purchased and sent and aggregated into an artificial intelligence, where it then goes and sequences your DNA and looks at all the variabilities within your DNA and how it can modify and change that in a good way or even in a bad way, or how they could solve various illnesses, cure illnesses, diseases, or modify a human to be a super genius while suppressing other parts of humanity. And how to do it with electromagnetic frequencies. How to modify a DNA strand utilizing nothing more than electromagnetic waves, which was shown to be actually done a year ago. So Epstein, one of the largest projects that he was operating, was the accumulation of children from the Virgin Islands and Africa, bringing those children in and utilizing some of them as sex workers and prostitutes and then ritualistic sacrifices. But also they were selling them off to genomics companies, where the genomics companies, owned by their cohorts, would do genetic experimentation on these children to find the best methodology to alter DNA, modifying these to be superhumans, and then trained under them to be the next generation of the elite, the super tech humans that you've all know Harari talks about. This is the real agenda, the transhumanistic agenda of what many of these elites were doing. And I think that we've come to that point where it's being exposed, that it's unraveling in front of our eyes, and many of these factions are being destroyed and dismantled, that the foundation is being pulled out from under them, and that soon we will see what happens next. Now, going into what's happening right now, we've talked many different times what happens in the election and what happens after. Everything depends on Donald Trump. J.D. Vance can't lead this country out of the situation that it's in. Donald Trump is that one leader that has risen up to that point. And when he gets into office, it's going to be a day of reckoning for a lot of these factions. And that's why they will stop at nothing to make sure that he can't get into office, that he won't get into office, whether it's taking him out through assassination or trying to steal the election, stealing the House of Representatives, and then allowing the coup to occur on January 6th, or just not transitioning power on January 20th. Or maybe it's just we don't have an election at all. Maybe World War III or global economic collapse breaks out, because those are points of ammunition that the deep state and the cabal have in their playbook that they can utilize against you and me. This whole world will be flipped upside down the moment they realize they can't win this game, that they can't rig the election. And that means that you need to get ready. You need to have a plan, because big things are about to happen in this world, in this country, into our lives. How we'll be affected, if we'll be affected at all, I don't know. But I think we all feel it and we all know it. Guys, my name is Josh. If you are new here, please subscribe to the channels that you are on. If you want to help support everything that we do here at the Red Pill Project, The Daily Dose, you can find us at redpills.tv, redpills.tv. Go over there, subscribe. There's links below that on the webpage to find and support us with our sponsors, as well as with donations, subscriptions, those types of things. If you want, Give, Send, Go, givesendgo.com/redpills, or just go to redpills.tv/go. Easiest way to help support us right there. Or PayPal, ways to do it right there. Pretty easy. PayPal.me/redpillstv. It'll come up as Success Systems, Decentralized Media. That's who we are, redpills.tv, Decentralized Media. So you can find that over there. And appreciate all the support, guys. And also, if you want your prepping supplies, My Patriot Supply, redpills.tv/patriot, as well as your immune modulating mushrooms. Kirk and Kristen will be back on with us next week. That's redpills.tv/mushroom. Much love, respect. God bless you guys. You guys take care. We will see you guys again tomorrow. Good night.
Boom. That's impossible. Only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.